Yep, we're on. Welcome to Let's Talk Racing, everybody. Running just a little bit behind. Got Steve Durbin running a little late, so.
Steve's not here yet, so we're just. No, leave it over here because this one's barely picking me up. There you go. Well, I didn't want it going across. I was trying to be nice.
Well, it's running from the side where you won't see.
Yeah.
There's plenty of
technical difficulties today.
Yeah, you're the technical difficulty.
I am not.
Oh, hush up.
Put our shirt out. Got more signatures on it. I think we got. Did we get Bruce to do it? Let's see who's on here. Let's do that real quick. Brad Causey.
Oh, too late.
Go ahead.
Let's Talk Racing.
Hey, how are you?
Doing good. We got Jerry Nadeau on the phone with us. All right, Jerry.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. How you doing tonight, Jerry?
I'm doing great. Just finished my little pizza and ready to talk to you guys.
All right.
Cool beans.
Good to go. I am Jerry Nadeau. You're part of a truck team, right?
Yeah, working for Rick Ware Motorsports and helping out Jeffrey Earnhardt in the truck series. So it should be a good year.
Cool beans.
Now, there's been a little bit of a talk. Now, you want to fill us in who your drivers are related to?
Well, I think you guys can realize, with Earnhardt, who he is. So, yeah, I mean, Jeffrey's a good guy. I've just recently met him not long ago. I've seen some of his races in the back, last year and stuff. And, he's a great kid. He comes from a great tradition, with Earnhardt. He should be a good one. So I'm looking forward to helping him out this year.
Yeah. Doc's in the background here yelling at me. Give us a little bit of a bio on you. Touch base. How'd you get in racing? And let's kind of take it from there.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was born and raised in Danbury, Connecticut, and my dad used to race on short tracks and race and modified. He got me involved when I was 4 years old and started, hopped in the go-kart and raced go-karts until I was 18, and I got into cars, raced some short track modifieds, ran some dirt cars on dirt tracks, and I moved into road racing, kind of made it a name in road racing, won a bunch of races, did the Barber Dodge Pro Series, ran some endurance races, did real well, and went to Europe, and ran a whole year out there, ran the Formula Opel Euro Series. I was the highest finishing American ever in the Formula Festival in Europe. And that's kind of a big race in open wheel racing. And then I kind of came back here in 97, and I was working for Richard Jackson Motorsports, which Morgan Shepherd used to drive for them.
Yeah.
And I was spotting for him on the weekends, and in the meantime, I was working out some deals with Richard. I was trying to get him to put me in an ARCA car at Lowe's, which was like a month away, and I told him, I said, Richard, what's it going to take to get an ARCA car and put me on the racetrack? And, we were bouncing around prices, and, we come up with a price of about $15,000, and, for me, $15,000 is a ton. That's like a year's salary for me back then, and so I called everybody but my mom and dad and raised the money and had a couple of sponsors, and we did the race, and we finished second at Lowe's, which is, the track is literally probably 10 minutes from my house. And we finished second, and Richard's driver left and went to another team, and went to Jasper, and Richard didn't have a driver for Michigan, so he basically asked me, he says, so Jerry, you want to race at Michigan? And that was it. That was how my career started. I went to Michigan, and I went out and practiced, and I was the second fastest guy in practice ever in the Cup race, and first time out, and I was right behind Jeff Gordon. And that's when I met him, and I met everybody else, and had a lot of publicity, and kind of my career took off that way. And I just stayed in Cup from 97 till 2003, till the day of my accident.
The day you were wrecked, which was at Richmond, I mean, the list of who you've driven for: MB2, you drove for Bill Elliott, Dan Marino, which are kind of sad to say that go away. But Rick Hendrick, I mean, man, you bounced around a little bit.
Yeah, I did. I'm I'm just a normal guy from Connecticut, and I kind of weeded my way down here and met some good people, and had a good opportunity. And yeah, it just when you're a rookie and you don't know that many people in this sport, you kind of get bounced around a little bit until you find a home. And I thought the Hendrick deal was a really good deal. I was there for almost 3 years, and certain things happened, and I got moved to another team, and we still ran Hendrick chassis and motors with MB2 Motorsports, and we were 10 races in the season in 2003, and unfortunately we had that accident at Richmond, which took me out of my career. So it was a bad deal, but I had fun. I got to say, I had a great career. I loved it. I had some good times, some bad times. I had some crying times and some happy times. Part of the sport. Stuff happens. It's like any other sport. When something happens bad, you're upset, you're down, and you got to kind of pick yourself back up and move on and do other things.
You went through, and it was just a practice. I think that was what made it the worst. Is that was just a practice deal, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was. We qualified 11th. We were the fastest guy in practice. My guys were like all excited, and Ryan wanted to make one more change, and I kind of told him that, hey, the car's great. Let's leave it, let's park it, and he made I think a shock change, and nothing against nothing. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was something on the track or whatever. I mean, it was a mistake that I made, and I went and turned one in practice, and spun it out and hit the wall, and it was a big impact. It was a sudden stop. It was the biggest impact ever recorded in NASCAR history. It was 128 Gs.
Yep.
Which at one time I think my body was like 14,000 pounds, but that's what doctors know about that. But apparently my body stopped and my brain didn't, and my brain slapped the side of my, and it just damaged.
But you still had all the safety equipment on that you were supposed to. I mean, you were wearing a Hans then, and correct?
Yeah. I had the Hans. The Hans works in frontal impact, and I didn't have a frontal impact. I had a side impact. And,
right.
I slapped the wall totally perfect. I mean, you couldn't ask for more perfect than the way I hit it. And all the absorption went into my body, and the car just slid sideways, and everything held up as far as the seat. I mean, obviously it was torn up pretty good after the wreck. I mean, the seat was twisted up, the steering wheel was bent, and but it was just an unfortunate thing. I mean, you look at Dale's wreck. I mean, his didn't look that bad at all. I mean, but
yeah,
it's just one of those things. I mean, it's just you never know until it happens, and people don't realize obviously what we go through sometimes. And when sometimes you look at some of the wrecks, some of the easiest and most not that great of a big deal, that's where people get hurt. And I think when you see big accidents, the cars tumbling and guys crashing, the problem is you have a longevity of the wreck. And with Dale's instance, he hit the wall, and he went from 200 to like 150 in like a matter of a second, and that's where you do all the damage. And that same with my wreck. I mean, I spun out. I probably was doing maybe 105, 110 miles an hour, and when it came to the wall, it was a sudden quick stop. And obviously your body can only take so much. And unfortunately, the great thing is I'm alive. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to see my daughter every now and then, and when I get her. And I'm looking for a great weekend with her this weekend, and you got to get ready for heading down to Daytona.
Yeah, and you're going to be down there with the trucks. I take it Little Earnhardt's going to be in a truck down there, correct?
Yes. Jeffrey's going to be down there. He'll probably come up here tomorrow. We're going to do some testing on my simulator. So I've been doing a lot of stuff with that. And I built 2 simulators in my basement. We do a lot of iRacing, and we go down there and we run some laps at whatever track. Tomorrow we'll probably be focus on Phoenix. And we'll run some laps and we'll do some runs, and I'll talk to him and try to give him as much information as I can.
Yeah. Is he going to be in the truck full time this year?
Yeah, from what I hear, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, get back to you just a little bit, though. You're cleared to get back into a race car, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I can get into anything I want to get into. Obviously, I can't get back into Cup or NASCAR or anything like that, but, I've done some go-kart races, and, I don't feel any different. As far as the karting and, what I've done in the back, in the past, I feel great. I went down to Daytona and, did some testing for BMW, and I was starting to get back my career back, which was about 4 years ago. And I really thought I was going to get back to NASCAR. And unfortunately, I hit a bump. I got a phone call when I was down in Florida testing, and it was the doctor, and apparently my dad got diagnosed with cancer. And it was a bad cancer. It was, something that he probably may have lived up to 3 months, and it just totally shocked me. I mean, you don't realize how great life is, and after my accident, I had a whole new outlook at life. I mean, I was in a race car, I was happy, I was making money, and, when I was in the hospital, when I woke up, I didn't see my race car or my race team cheering me on. It was my mom, my dad, my friend, and it gave me a whole new outlook. And when the doctor told me that about my dad, I fell to the floor. I drove up to Raleigh-Durham, and I was with him every day till the day he passed, and that's what happened. I mean, it hits me hard, and but I can't, you can't take it back, and I think you just got to think about all the memories that you had. And, now it's go time for me.
Right.
You got to enjoy every day till it's the last. And
yeah, exactly. So, but we can still go race NASCAR. You can get back into it, correct?
No, NASCAR, no. I may, but the thing is, I'll be honest with you, I don't want to race. I don't want to go race Cup. I don't want to race Busch, or I don't want to race truck. I had my time. I had
right.
fun time. And I just feel like I want to stay out and just focus on my life and focus on what I can do to help people. And, I took a hard road getting here. And, now it's time for me to help others, and, whatever I can do to help them out, then I'm here for. As far as the racing, I did that my whole life.
Right.
4 years old until I was 30, whatever the accident was, 36, 37. And it's like, I think I had enough, and now it's time to live.
Time to give a little bit back too. You're helping out the truck team, and you're helping out Jeffrey Earnhardt, so that's got to be a little bit fulfilling.
Yeah, it is. I'm excited. I mean, it's definitely not the same adrenaline that you had as a racer. And when you're racing, you're caught up in the storm, and you're there. You're married to it, and some guys can handle it with families, and some guys can't. And my problem was I couldn't. I
right.
couldn't handle everything and the racing, and it was hard for me. I was ecstatic to get there, but then you start thinking you have so many other things in life besides racing, and I didn't really see that. When I was driving, I was all about racing. When I got in that car, I didn't think about nothing. And, it really made me wake up after the wreck. It made me really think about life, and I just kind of look at it a lot different now ever since the accident. And, I'm happy. I'm not ashamed. I'm not mad. I'm not mad at anybody. It was an unfortunate deal, and, the good thing is I'm here to able to talk about it.
Well, we're glad you're here, and I remember that I was, we're just south of Richmond, so we got the news pretty quick down here, and we're glad you're here with us.
Oh yeah, well I appreciate it. I appreciate doing anything, especially talking about Jeffrey, and his deal with this year with Rick Ware and Fuel Doctor, Chevrolet #1. So it should be fun. I mean, I'm looking forward to helping him out. He's a great talent, and I don't want to see it wasted. I think if there's anything I can do or say, hopefully, it can help him out.
Cool. So, do we still get the bug? Do we still got to get in a go-kart every now and then and kind of scratch that itch, I should say?
I enjoy the iRacing. I do a lot of that. Well, I don't do a lot. I mean, I do it probably once a week. I get on there and I'll do it for a few hours. But yeah, I mean, if there's a chance, there's times that I'll get a itch and I'll go do the endurance karting, and I'll spend some time in the go-karts, and I'll do 6-hour enduros. And I've done well. I've always done well in go-karts, and so I just I haven't. I don't feel like I've lost anything in that way. But once I guess as a driver, when you have it, you have it. When you don't, you don't. And so I guess that's one good thing that God gave me is I still have the ability, but I can't do it.
You still got it though, right?
I guess so. Here I can walk, I can talk, I can. There's obviously there's a few marbles that are still loose up top, but I think every driver has got a few marbles loose.
I don't know one that doesn't have a few loose. So.
Well, that's good to know that. I understand that part.
I'm a driver too, so I know I got a few loose. So, this ought to be. I'm going to ask you this: the safety improvements from '03 when your accident, and I know you've probably kept up with it a little bit more. Are they going the right way, and have they done enough?
You never do enough, and I think by far, as we speak right now in 2011, yes, they are by far doing everything they can to make these cars as safe as they can, and obviously the tracks. I mean, with the safer barriers. I mean, we didn't have that back when I was racing.
Right.
I think they started evolving that after Dale's wreck and after my wreck, and they tore the track up after my accident. The next week they had safer barrier walls there. So,
yep.
If my accident was a week later, yeah, I probably would be racing right now. But unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. I think NASCAR is doing everything. I mean, with the Hans device, with the way the cockpits are in the cars, and the safer barriers, and obviously some of the tubing in the cars that they made them so they're more durable, so guys can take big impacts. And back in my day when you got in a big wreck, you probably couldn't take it, whereas you can take it today.
Right. So in other words, you like the way the progression is going, and I guess the reason I'm asking that is because of your effect that it had. You're liking the progression. What you're seeing is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, you could say a lot of things. I mean, that's a tough question to say. I mean, I could say, you know what? Let's put airbags. Let's put airbags in a car so if there's an accident, for sure that the guy's going to walk out. I mean, that would be pretty stupid. I think that you can't look at it that way.
Right.
These drivers are getting paid a lot of money to put on a good show for the fans, and there's some risk factor. So that's the job they chose, and you try to be smart when you're out there. Hopefully all the guys are doing the same thing.
Right, and I think they are, and I think the drivers are all on board with any of the safety features that they do incorporate. I know there was Michael Waltrip was really big on the roof opening. He really pushed for that, but he was a tall guy.
Yeah.
But I think they're going in the right. I'm with you. They're going in the right direction, and I hope they keep going that way.
Yeah, like I said, they're not going to stop. I mean, they have a research and development area just for crash testing, and so there's always new things and stuff they're working on every day. So, I got to give a lot of credit to NASCAR for what they're doing, to the sport and what they're doing to make the drivers safer. But when you're out there, running 180, 200 miles an hour, there's obviously going to be a risk factor. So, it's the job you take. It's like any other sport, whether it's football or baseball or hockey or boxing. I mean, these guys are high-paid athletes, and that's the job that we chose, and that's what we enjoy doing.
Well, it sounds like you're enjoying everything now, and I'm glad to hear it. I mean, you sound great. Sounds like you're really healthy. You've bounced back, I hope, 100% from this.
Yeah, I think so. I'm close. I wouldn't say I'm 100%. I mean, I don't think I've ever been 100%, but honestly, I feel like I've made a big step ever since my accident, and I don't really feel any different. But I know the effects of my accident, and I know the effects that it's done on my head. And there's telltales of the accident. With the injuries I have, I damaged the right side of my thalamus and my brain, which my left side is, I wouldn't say it's numb, but it's asleep. It's been asleep for 8 years, and I can walk on it, I can grab things, but it just feels like I've got pins and needles, 24 hours a day. So
you're still in the healing process, then, in other words.
Well, yeah, I think the healing process is over. This is what I have. Whatever you have after, I would say, the first 3 years, 4 years, that's what you have for the rest of your life. And,
right.
That's the things that I've heard from the doctor. So it kind of gave me a different outlook at, do I come back? And it's hard. You have to be so focused, and it's hard to pick yourself up every day and go to work and try to go back to what you used to do when you know that you have something that's bothering you. And so that's when I...
Hey, Jerry. This is Roger. Now, several years ago, I actually had to quit racing. One of the issues I had was I had a neck injury from a drunk driver that ran a red light, and I actually had to wind up having my neck fused because I was having the same things where I was having pain shooting down through my arm and stuff like that. Have they ever checked into any of that stuff, possibly?
No. From what I've heard from the doctors, there's a big blunt to the right side of the brain.
Okay.
Did some damage to the right side of the thalamus, and it's like a nerve damage that happened. And so the right side is perfect. It's 100%. The left side's a little slow, and I think what they were trying to explain to me is that your blood flow in your right side is running good. Your left side is running really slow, and so like on cold days, my left side freezes right up, and it's like I have a hard time to walk. Like I start like limping, and my arms are straight, and this is on cold days. I've gotten used to it over the years, and I can kind of, by looking at me, you wouldn't notice a difference. It's just that, if you stepped inside my body, then you would understand.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Well,
I can feel for you because I used to be sitting there doing nothing. 1 minute my arm would tingle, and nothing would be there. Then all of a sudden it felt like somebody just hit me upside my arm with a sledgehammer. That type of thing.
Yeah, it's I explain it to people as like there's a 1,000 little Chinese men with needles pricking me on my left side.
Acupuncture tester.
They're doing that 24 hours a day. So, but I'm okay. I'm okay with it.
Well, good, and it sounds like you're enjoying what you're doing. You're doing the coaching thing, and I think that's a pretty good deal to do. Doc's back here saying I got to get wrapped up here. I know we got Kyle. Kyle, you're on here, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, hold on a second.
Sure.
Jerry, I'd love to get you and Jeffrey on here one time, like right after Daytona. Do you think we can do that?
Yeah, that's fine. Just give me a holler. Let me know what's going on, and we'll do that.
Are you guys going to come up to anywhere near Richmond or anything this year? I don't think the trucks run there this year, do they?
Nope.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they run like on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night at Richmond. I do not know when. Like I said, I've done the Cup stuff in Busch, but never. I love watching the truck. Never really. I don't know too much about their schedule, but wherever it'll be, we'll be.
I'll have to check that out. We'd love to see you, and we're going to go to Martinsville this year. We're going to Martinsville again?
And we'll probably see if we can hook up with somebody.
I think we're going to try to go to Martinsville. But Jerry, it was great to have you on here.
Thank you.
And like I said, let's get you and Jeffrey after Daytona, and we can talk about Daytona a little bit. How's that?
Okay, good deal. Thanks, guys.
All right, Jerry. I had 80 million things on my mind. Now, hold on. Now, Kyle, hold on.
Sure.
Hit drop.
Drop
One.
1.
Okay.
Okay, I am not the most technical man here, so. Kyle Lockrow, right?
Yes.
Okay, give me a little bit. I'm very blind on you, so give us some background on you.
Absolutely. I'm 20 years old. I'm located in southern Maryland, a small town in La Plata, about 12 miles from the Virginia state line. Currently, I'm in my third year at the College of Southern Maryland studying communications, and I'm also a lifeguard at the college, and I work on the college event staff. But outside of that, I am trying to pursue a NASCAR career.
Really? So now what are we running now?
Last year, I ran 2 races at Lonesome Pine Raceway down in Coburn near Bristol, and I ran an ASA modified 4-cylinder car.
Yeah.
Had limited success with the car. It was not the best equipment, but I dealt with what I had, got some good seat time, learned a lot, and just that was the big thing for me is I needed the seat time. And I got a little bit of coaching from, actually, Roger knows a good friend of mine, Dan Brody. I got a little bit of coaching from Brody. Him and I have become good friends, and he's helped me out with some stuff. But that's about all I did last year. And in the past few years, I've done some Legends car testing, and I've run I ran 1 late model test in 2007. But other than that, it's been a little bit limited just with trying to focus on school and working the jobs and stuff. So
Trying to climb that ladder, aren't you?
absolutely, and I understand that racing, the driving portion of it is very limited, especially nowadays. So you have to have a backup plan, and my backup plan is majoring in public relations. I would love to do PR at the racetrack or for a team or driver, etc. Just to be in the sport somehow. So it's kind of just helping me get my foot in the door, whether I end up racing in the Cup Series, which I hope to, or I'm on the sidelines taking care of somebody's scheduling or appearances.
Oh, hell, you can come down and do that for me. Come on. I need a PR guy.
You have no idea how many offers I've gotten from people. Come help me out. I'm like, oh, school's the only problem with that. But no, I'd love to be at the track every weekend. It's a good environment, and I always get pumped up when I get to go to the track. But just trying to open up some options for this year. Right now, the only plans I have is I'm running April 23rd down at Langley. Actually, I'm running for the Little Race Cars team for Chris Lemons.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm running a Legends race down there at the end of April, so I'm real excited about that. It's my birthday's on May 5th, so it's kind of like an early birthday present, and I'm hoping for a nice solid finish and maybe attract some sponsorship to where we can maybe bump it up to a multiple race deal, maybe even a full season.
Well, we'll have to make sure we have to run into you then. I'll probably a night. I don't know yet. When was it? What was the date? Hold on.
Saturday, April 23rd.
April 23rd. Hey, we're going to be racing that night too in the Pro 6 division. So yeah, that'll be a good night.
Absolutely cool.
So
we can bump into you and see you. Yeah, we've known Chris for quite a while too.
Yeah, Chris is actually a really good friend of ours. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm actually going to be running for him. Been in contact with him. I tested for the guy who previously owned the team. There was an ownership swap during the off season, and Chris kind of purchased the stuff from the previous owner.
Right.
And I really like Chris and what he's doing. He seems like he has a good direction with the team, and he just seems like very knowledgeable with his prior experience of driving, and I feel like it's going to be very beneficial to me this year.
Yeah, and you'll have some really good equipment, so you'll have a good run in there. You'll get used to Langley real quick.
The funny thing, I actually tested Langley back in October, and I loved it. The only track experience I'd had prior to Langley was bank tracks at Lonesome Pine and at Old Dominion up in Manassas.
Right.
But the flat track experience, I don't know what it is. I just seem to excel. I got out there, and it just seemed it was different because it's so much more throttle sensitive with having to be smooth and watch your steering, and with the track being kind of old and running a different line, it was new, but I really liked it, and I picked up on it pretty quick, and I actually enjoyed it. I got out of that car, and I had a big grin on my face, and I'm like, I am definitely racing, no matter if it's once or full season.
You caught the bug pretty quick, didn't you?
Oh, I got up to speed pretty quick. Now, I mean, there was a little bit of a limit on the car. It was my first time in the car, and we were just trying to get a little bit of seat time, learn the car, learn the track. It had been about a year and a half since I'd been in a Legends car, so definitely didn't want to tear it up. But talked to Chris about it, and he said, well, we'll make sure we get everything set up for you, because I'm hoping to test end of this month, early March, when the weather gets a little bit warmer, go down and bust off some good laps and just get a rhythm going with Chris and learn each other. And I just want to have a successful year and just get more exposure and get myself out there. And I feel that Chris is definitely going to help me to the next level.
Well, that's good. That'll be really good. What are you looking at? You're looking at me. Doc's over here eyeballing me. So
giving him a hard time. He got talking really long to Jerry, crunching up everybody here in the end.
Oh, no problem.
So we know we've got the Legends deal. We got anything else going on?
Right now, the only other thing I have going on is a friend of mine set me up to do an appearance in Daytona on the day of the 150s, the 17th of February. I'm going to be signing, apparently, from what I heard, it was at a Kmart on International Speedway Boulevard from about 7 to 9 p.m. that night after the 150s, and trying to get people to come out and look at me and just anything I can do. Right now, the only plans I have is that, because I am transferring to Towson University right outside of Baltimore in the fall. So racing is it's going to be dependent on what school looks like and my work schedule. But if we can line up some more races and maybe pull some sponsorship and just get some more exposure, absolutely. I'm willing to run Legends cars, late models. Heck, there's a dirt track 15 minutes from my house. If I could get somebody to give me a chance, I'll jump in a late model down there or street stock. I don't care. I just need seat time and anything I can get.
You know how that is.
Well, that's the way to do it too. You just keep knocking on them doors and get every ride you can get. Don't ever turn down a ride.
Oh, I have no problem with that. I have annoyed so many people over the past 4 years since I've chased this. I'm surprised there's not like a hit out on me, probably, with all the people in racing. I've probably upset or something. But no, I just want to, I don't care if it's a car that's a 30th place car. I'll gladly jump in it and see if I can take the 30th place car and run 20th with it. The seat time's what's important to me, and learning and just making myself a better driver and learning what it takes to make a car that's not so good a better car. Because I feel that a lot of young guys today, yes, they don't maybe have the money behind them, but I think a lot of younger guys give up too easy, especially in the top 3 series. They feel that they have this right to a top 5 car when they first get started. That's just absolutely wrong. You need to get in something that is back of the pack or not as strong, because if you can prove your driving ability based on what the car is doing, I feel it makes you a better driver, and it'll help you when you get in better equipment, because you'll know more about the car and things like that. And that's really what I want to do. I don't want to just get in something that's good, because I think anybody can jump in a good car and go out and run well. The trick is to run something that's so-so and make it better.
In other words, take a 30th place car and get a 20th place run out of it. That seems to be a little bit better.
Exactly. I mean, pretty much. If you can take a car that's not as great and run towards the front with it and shock people, then you're going to really prove yourselves. And I think that's why sponsors are so hesitant on these drivers, is because they're not really showing. Yes, money might not be there like it was 5 years ago, but you can still pull sponsorship. You just have to be willing to take what you can get. And if it's only so much here and so much there, hey, it may help pay your tire bill, and if it's keeping you going to the racetrack, and that's really what's most important. If you're out there, just like I've heard many times, I believe it was out of sight, out of mind. If you're there, people know who you are.
Yep.
So.
Well, listen, I know we got to get you off of here, because I know we got Alan Dietz calling in here in a minute. But if you got any sponsors, family, friends that you need to thank, let's get you on out of here.
No problem. First of all, I'd like to thank all my family and friends around the area, and anybody that supported me through Facebook and anything like that. I appreciate it. And really just like to thank, pretty much that's about it. And like to plug Irving Harris Photography, a local guy who's helped me out over the years. And pretty much that's about it. Just any close friend, and just keep an eye out for me, because I think this year's going to be good for me, and we're going to shock some people. And maybe in the next couple of years, I'll be maybe looking for some top tier NASCAR stuff.
Cool.
Good. And we'll catch up with you when you come down here in Langley, all right?
He's usually in the chat room.
Look forward to staying in contact with you guys. Look forward to meeting you in person.
Sounds good to me. We'll talk to you later, Kyle. Thanks for being on.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. I'm going to try this on my own. Hold on. Okay, got it. Now who we? Oh, we're getting Alan on it. Jerry was great. Kyle was pretty good too. I kind of liked him. Yeah, I kind of liked him. So, and I'm waiting for my producer to dial the phone.
I'm waiting for Alan to answer.
Alan Dietz, NASCAR Media Group producer. Correct? And we have this man coming on at 7:45. And you probably can't see it. And this is going to be good. This is Sam Bass. Sam is an artist. And he is the only officially licensed artist. I got Alan on there?
Yes.
Okay. Well, hold on. Let me do my little promo here.
For Sam.
For Sam. He's the only officially licensed artist with NASCAR. Am I correct on that?
You got
Alan.
Yeah.
Am I right on that?
As far as I know, I'm 99% sure that he is.
Yeah, I think that's what it said. And I'm going by his. He sent us a press junket. So I better check that. I don't want to be.
Hey, he does excellent work for NASCAR and drivers and all the good stuff, including guitars even.
Yeah, so we're going to talk to him in a little bit. Now we got Alan. Alan Dietz, right?
Yeah, Dietz.
And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I don't know exactly what to tell you other than I'm a producer over at NASCAR Media Group here in Charlotte, and been a race fan all my life, and got lucky enough right after I graduated college back in 2000 to get a job with these guys. And the first real job that I had with NASCAR Media Group was as a production assistant on Totally NASCAR, which aired on Fox Sports Net from 2001 to 2004. And the show was brand new, and it was like a NASCAR style version of RPM Tonight at that time. It was a 30-minute nightly show. And we were on Fox Sports Net. A lot of us were young and hadn't been doing it for a long time. And the first week of shows were the Monday through Friday leading up to the 2001 Daytona 500. And, nobody knew what Totally NASCAR was, where it was, anything about it. And then, unfortunately, what happened last year, February 18th, when Dale Earnhardt lost his life down at Daytona, at that point, automatically, everybody knew what Totally NASCAR was, because if it said NASCAR, people were going there for news on television, wanting to know what was going on and what the investigation was leading to as far as his accident down in Daytona. So instantly, we just got really bombarded with the biggest story in the history of NASCAR. But it put Totally NASCAR on the map, and it was a great run. And then I ended up doing some shows for CMT, some countdown type shows on NASCAR. And the last couple of years, I've been mainly working on race day on speed, working on features and stuff like that. And that's been a good time, and just really enjoyed doing it.
Now you don't work directly with NASCAR. You actually work for a production group, right?
Well, NASCAR Media Group originally was NASCAR Images, and NASCAR owned 50% and Fox owned 50%. And when it became NASCAR Media Group, NASCAR owns it entirely now. I mean, it is a department of NASCAR, basically like the NFL Films is for the NFL. I mean, Brian France signs my checks.
Yeah. Well, I bet they'd be a good group to work for, though. I mean, overall, they seem like they treat their employees really well, and it seemed like that would be a fun job to do.
Well, considering everything and the way everything is, when you look at it, NASCAR hasn't had to lay any people off. And
and with everything going on, and with, you know, maybe not as many things, you know, companies just don't have as much money to go and buy a television program or do whatnot, but we've, you know, had a steady flow of projects, even, you know, as bad as the economy is. And, you know, if you look at the movies that NASCAR Media Group's done, the Dale movie, The Ride of Their Lives, and, you know, we do things for speed, a lot of stuff for speed, you know, race day and trackside, and NASCAR Victory Lane, NASCAR Performance, and, you know, do things for ESPN and you know, CMT and different networks. I mean, we've been pretty fortunate, and yeah, I mean, if you know, there's a lot of folks over there that love NASCAR, and there's a lot of folks that have come from different places, but have grown to really bring their talents in to tell people the story of NASCAR. And I'm not complaining. I mean, if anybody would have, you know, told me whenever I was a kid growing up in South Carolina back in the 80s that I'd be doing what I was doing now, I'd say that's great, and I would hope that I would be smart enough to put myself in that position. But I've got very lucky. I mean, I graduated in 2000, as I said, from Francis Marion University, a small school down in South Carolina, and it just happened to be at the right time. The TV deal was changing. You know, ESPN and those guys were out, and Fox and NBC at that time were coming in 2001, and they were starting a lot of new shows, and it given opportunity to people like me, and just been very fortunate to have that opportunity.
Well, you know, you're a producer too, but you get to see a lot of the racing. You're there on race days too, aren't you?
It depends. I mean, it depends on the project. You know, back when we were working on Totally NASCAR, I went to about, you know, 15 NASCAR races, and, you know, over the last several years, I'd go, you know, to anywhere from 5 to 10. Last year, doing what I was doing, you know, primarily working on race day. I was just working on features for the race day program.
Right.
I only had to go to Daytona and Homestead, and this year I'm still going to be a feature producer, but it looks like I'm going to have to go to a few races, and you know, that's okay. You know, back in my 20s, I enjoyed traveling and seeing different places. But now, you know, being married, I got a 6-month-old son. I'm not really as interested in traveling as much as I used to, but there's a lot worse places to go, I can tell you that.
Yeah. As a producer, and I'm sure you get to mingle with a lot of the drivers, am I correct?
At times.
At times?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a 2-part question, and anybody in the media, I love asking this. I always get an answer on one, but I can never get an answer on the second question, and the first one is, who do you enjoy working with the most? And then on the other side of the coin, who is one that you really look at and say, man, I got to do this again?
You know, for me, you know, Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been somebody that I could always, I don't know if it's because of, you know, how I grew up and having an accent or whatever, but I can do an interview with him just like I'm talking to one of my best friends. And I don't have any sort of relationship with him outside of you know, work or whatever, but I've really done some really good interviews with him over the years, and it just seems like he gets relaxed when he's around me, and I've really been able to do some good interviews with him. You know, Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon, you know, I know they're not necessarily the most popular with some of the fans, but as far as having class and just being the ultimate professionals and being great to work with, you cannot find any two in any sport that are better. And most of the guys are good. As far as one that
and you don't have to answer it, but if,
I don't mind I don't mind answering it, actually. And it's nothing against him, and it's not as bad as it used to be, but especially back when I was younger and first getting into this stuff, and whenever you'll remember back at this time between 2000 and 2005, I had some anger management issues, and that was Tony Stewart. And the thing with him was whenever he was in a good mood, he was great. He'd sit there and, you know, kind of poke you and josh with you and stuff like that, but you didn't really know what you were going to get with him, and I was always a little bit uneasy, doing stuff with him, especially if it wasn't if you hadn't already lined it up with a PR person,
right
after a race or right before a race, and kind of doing it on the fly. That always kind of worried me. But now, what happened in Australia aside, he's been a pretty easy going guy the last few years, and not nearly as intimidating, if you will.
Yeah. You know what? I had somebody else say that he said it wasn't the worst person to interview, but a lot of times you never knew what you were going to get when you got to him. But he always gave a great interview. He always gave you some good sound bites.
Yeah, and like I say, I mean, for the most part, 80% of the time, even back at that time when he was kind of volatile, he was fine. But I remember one time we were at Daytona and we needed to do something with him, and I was just kind of walking along beside him because we were going somewhere else from the garage area to do it and do the interview in a different place, and I wasn't really making any small talk with him just because I didn't know what to expect, and he was sitting there kind of poking me in the side and looking over my shoulder at my notepad to see what I was writing. He's in a great mood, and like I say, at that time being younger, you just really didn't know what to expect, so it made it to be a kind of tense situation.
Yeah, and I've heard that before too about him, and I've also heard Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson are really great. And I've always said the reason Jeff Gordon was so popular is he could enunciate things. He acted like he was very intelligent.
Yeah, and I remember one time, especially in these sit-down settings where you can do, a sit-down interview. Granted, I'm off camera and you never see me asking the question because these are for tape pieces. But something can just pop into your head, and I remember asking him one time, I said, I don't know, I'm sure somebody's asked you this before, and I don't even know if this will get used for what we're using it for, but I'm just curious. I was like, what is it like to be you? What's it like to be this popular, to be a name as well known as you are outside of racing circles, just in general? I remember Nelly had him in one of his rap songs years ago. And he gave a great answer about it. He's just a regular guy, and looked in some pretty extraordinary circumstances that he's been able to be in. And those guys are just unbelievable. Just as I said, the ultimate professionals.
And they've got to be under so much pressure. And there's sometimes that I watch some of them interviews, and I really do feel bad for the drivers because it's just like, I'm a normal person. Treat me like a normal person. Don't come with me with all these questions that, are ignorant.
Well, and, I was actually talking to somebody about this last week. The way that I look at it, and I think, I remember talking to people, and they'd be like, oh, this guy's a jerk, or I don't want to have anything to do with this guy. He's not, good to be around. But the way that I've always looked at it, and even, you got to kind of take it as it comes because you don't know what mood these guys are in sometimes. But I have bad days at work. I have lots of bad days at work, and a lot of them are just because of my attitude.
Right.
I don't have a guy with a camera in my face, sticking a microphone in my face saying, well, why did you do that? Or why didn't you do this? Or, he did that better than you. And that's the way I've always looked at it. These guys are under a tremendous amount of pressure, and they're doing a job.
Exactly.
And if they don't perform, they get fired.
Yep.
And, I think that's the way, even a fan, if you go there and a guy that won't sign your autograph, kind of understand where he might be coming from.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Hey, Alan, have you ever had the pleasure of interviewing Sam Bass?
No, I haven't. I have seen Sam a lot in different places in and around Charlotte, and obviously, at the racetracks and stuff like that. But no, I've never had the pleasure.
Hey, Sam, you should tell him.
Well, Alan, fire it up, man. Here's your chance.
Well, I know. I'll give you a question.
Okay.
Tell the folks how you first got into doing this I know I've heard a story about you being a Bobby Allison fan, and that's kind of how you got involved in doing what you're doing now that's made you so famous.
Well, absolutely, man. I don't know about how famous I am, but I'll tell the story. I went to my first race when I was a real young kid, about 7, 8 years old, in Richmond, Virginia, at Southside Speedway, a speedway you guys have probably been to a time or two. And
Oh, yeah.
Bobby Allison was the visiting celebrity racer that Friday night because he was racing at Richmond Fairgrounds Raceway that weekend, and it was my first race as a kid I'd ever attended, and Bobby was out there, and I got a chance to meet him that night and everything, and he became my childhood hero for sure, and so I followed his career from like the late '60s, growing up, and I went to his fan club banquets in Richmond, Virginia, and everything in the late '70s and early '80s, and I quit my I graduated from college and spent a few years working for the federal government, and I quit my job in 1987 with the federal government and went full time into my art career. And the first project I got to do was through Miller Brewing Company. I got to design the 1988 Miller High Life car for Bobby Allison. And so while I was working on that project during the winter, Bobby called me himself and asked me if I would design his Piper aircraft car that he was going to run in the Busch Grand National Series. So in the beginning of 1988, I went to Daytona and watched my childhood hero race the Busch Grand National car, the Piper aircraft car, on Saturday and win the first time he ever ran that paint scheme I designed. And then the next day, I watched him beat his son across the finish line and win the 1988 Daytona 500. And the first two paint schemes I ever did in this business, my childhood hero won the races in the car. So it was like a dream come true.
Cool.
And I'm going to touch base on this because everybody says Sam Bass, and if you've been around racing, you know the name. I've known it for years, and I'm very honored that you're here with us. But any special paint job that you see in NASCAR, I'd say 99% of them, right, Sam?
I don't think it's quite that high.
Okay. Any special paint job that you see, and I know you do a lot for Hendricks, you do a lot for Childress, this man has designed it, and it's some of the best artwork ever. It's the best I've seen.
Well, I appreciate it. I like to think that hopefully people feel like the ones that stand out the most are mine. Okay, so that's my goal anyway. But I've had a really tremendous career. I mean, I've been going to races, like I said, since I was 7, 8 years old, and this is exactly what I've always dreamed of doing, is painting and drawing race cars. And it's worked out really, really great. I mean, I'm so pumped up. I'm in the office tonight working on some drawings and everything that I'm taking down to Daytona with me. I'm gonna leave Saturday and go down there, and looking forward to staying down there for a few weeks. And I'm still as excited about working in this racing industry as I was when I started it back in really about 1981 was when I started going to the racetracks and pursuing this dream, and I couldn't be happier with my career.
You talked about your first two paint jobs that you actually did, which were for Bobby Allison. They won, and you've had so many that have won since then. If you take those first two out, what's the most proudest moment that you've had out there, a paint scheme, and you said,
yeah. Wow. I mean, there are so many of them, but I'll be honest with you. One of the real neat things that I was able to be a part of was a Wheaties promotion back in, I think, 1997 or so, and it was for Dale Earnhardt, and he ran a special paint scheme for Wheaties, and it was for the All-Star race, which was then called the Winston here in Charlotte. And Wheaties did a special promotion. They actually put the painting of Dale in the car that I did on one of their special packages. And there was always that that question out there about whether race drivers were athletes or not. And I know how proud Dale Earnhardt was when he made the cover of that Wheaties package back then, and I know how proud I was to have my artwork on a box of Wheaties. It was really, really cool, and I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you I went to the grocery stores and stood at the end aisle displays and watched all those boxes being put up and stacked there with my artwork on it. It was a really, really special moment in my career. But Dale Jr.'s first win when he was driving a Budweiser car I designed when he got his win at Texas. His first Grand National win, he was driving an AC Delco car I designed at Texas. Yeah. And Jeff Gordon, I've designed all of his primary paint schemes since he came into the sport, as I say, with a mustache and a mullet way back when.
Yeah.
And it's been a special thrill to work on those cars for DuPont and design his race cars. That's been really neat. But I've been so fortunate to work with so many great drivers, and like Tony Stewart's Rookie of the Year car in Cup, I designed that paint scheme. Jimmy Johnson's Lowe's car that he came into Cup with, I designed that paint scheme, and I've had the opportunity to work with so many people over the years. I mean, it's just been incredible. 1 year at Daytona during the 4th of July race, there was a paint scheme for Coors I designed for Sterling Marlin, a paint scheme for Budweiser I designed for Kenny Schrader, and a paint scheme for Rusty Wallace I designed for Miller.
For Miller Lite.
Yeah, and to have those three major beer companies out there, and I had done all three paint schemes for their race cars. That was something I was tremendously proud of. So, like I tell a lot of people, man, I'm just a big kid that loves racing, and I'm doing the same thing I was doing as a kid, painting my Hot Wheels. Only the Hot Wheels really roll now, and they're bigger, So it's all fun.
Alan, you got something else for Sam here? I got one I want to ask Sam, but go ahead, Alan.
Well, I got one quick one that I'd like to ask him, and I'm sure that coming up in the 80s and watching races like you mentioned. Me and a friend of mine were talking about this the other day. How much did those paint jobs of those race cars in the 80s, when sponsors really started getting big into it, have inspired you now? Because I think those were some of the best looking iconic race cars that there's been. Coors, Levi Garrett, Wrangler, Budweiser. I mean, those cars really, to me, I would think, have inspired what you've done here over the last 25 years or so.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great question, and I've grown up, watching this sport since the late 1960s, and it has really changed, a lot, technically, but then again, there are certain aspects of it that you can go back years and years ago and see some really cool paint schemes that you can be influenced by now. My favorite paint scheme was Bobby Allison's paint scheme in 1972, the Coca-Cola Monte Carlo. Yep. It just had a beautiful gold and red on it, and he ran that paint scheme, for several years. Cars that were kind of similar like that. I think it's amazing if you look at NASCAR from the very beginning, and you look at the paint schemes and everything. You'll see that the sponsors were kind of a certain size in the same area. The numbers were kind of a certain size, and pretty much in the same area. And then you get up to the early 80s, the area that you're talking about, the mid to late 80s, and you realize the impact of television on the paint schemes, because all of a sudden the hood logos got 3 to 4 times larger on the cars. The TV panel, which used to be a throwaway area for Joe's Garage or some Chevy dealership or something like that, all of a sudden became a key, just almost as key importance as the hood logos, because television had developed the in-car camera, and you were either leading
or following, and so the deck lid, the TV panel and the hood became the prominent areas on the race car because of those cameras, and the car started reflecting television coverage, and the logos got bigger and more distinct, and the paint jobs got bolder and crisper, and that was really an exciting time in NASCAR during the mid to late 80s and going into the 90s.
Do you I'm going to bring this up. I got to ask you about a guitar you did,
Okay.
but I'm going to ask you. We see the NHL and we see the NFL and we see baseball, hockey, and they're going back and doing some of their old uniforms, kind of the throwback uniforms,
retro uniforms.
Do you think we're going to see any of that in NASCAR? I mean, we could see Jeff Gordon pull out the old rainbow for a race. I mean, can we see some of that? Do you think?
I would love that. I mean, I really would, and I would not be at all surprised during Jeff's final year or something to see him run several of the paint schemes that he's won in over the years. And a bunch of them have been mine. I would love that. I think I wrote. Kind of an essay, and a few years ago when they went to the Car of Tomorrow, and pitched it to some people, and they were very, very interested in it, about doing an article called Yesterday's Car of Tomorrow. And essentially what I did was I put the famous iconic paint schemes of the past on the new Car of Tomorrow, but yet I did the straight application to the car of how it would look based on the paint schemes they'd run. But I also did another version where I put that same paint scheme, but designed it as if it had been designed in current modern day.
For that car, yeah.
Yeah, with the concerns and the restrictions and everything else. So I made the logos, bigger and bolder, and the numbers bolder, and kind of changed some different things on the cars. And it was really, really cool. I mean, to the point where Motorsports Authentics kind of picked up that idea, and they did a special Dale Earnhardt version of the Car of Tomorrow with the Daytona paint scheme that he won in, 10 years earlier.
Right.
So it's I think that's great. I mean, I love the throwback. I'm a huge football fan, and I think it's really awesome when they go back and they pick up some things. I mean, even the Wood Brothers this year, they're going to go back and pick up the old paint scheme that David Pearson ran for them in several of the races with Trevor Bayne as the driver this year, and it's pretty close. It's a little bit different, but it's pretty darn close to that iconic paint scheme that Pearson ran for years and years, and won like 75% of the races he competed in for him. So I think it's a great thing, and I think the fans really embrace it.
Well, Richard Petty did it when Bobby Labonte was driving for him. It was 50 years, and didn't he have a couple of cars that were...
Yeah, he sure did. I was designing for Richard Petty at that time with General Mills, and sure did. I did that. They ran a paint scheme for a Goodies race in Martinsville that I was able to make Bobby's car look like the old school Richard Petty car with the Goodies sponsorship and everything. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with that stuff, and there aren't but so many ways to break up a race car. I mean, there's been so many paint schemes. I mean, if you go back to the beginning of NASCAR, and when paint schemes really started to evolve in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, I mean, cars have been cut up and painted so many different ways, and there's so many just unbelievable iconic paint schemes. I mean, one of my favorites, again, it was a Bobby Allison paint scheme, but when he drove for Roger Penske, I love the AMC Matador.
The red, white, and blue AMCs, yeah.
Yeah, there are people that weren't too keen on the lines on that car, but from a pure visibility standpoint, when that car was out on the racetrack, you could not miss it.
Yeah.
And that's the key. I mean, whenever I designed Jeff Gordon's original Rainbow Warrior paint scheme, the car, albeit very different from Bobby Allison's Matador was I still took the same approach to it, in that the center part of the car was one color and the front and the back were different colors, but it stood out on the racetrack. You really were able to see it based on that theory that I adopted from the Bobby Allison car, the Matador.
Yeah, and you know, whenever you ask, it's just like you brought up David Pearson. A lot of people don't know that he ran a Home and Movie 17 car before he was in that Purelator. They always recognize him as being Purelator.
Right. Well, yeah, and that was a beautiful car too. I mean, that car, that blue and gold 17, was incredible. And you know, it's funny because paint schemes over the years. I'm working on a new book right now that chronicles the graphic design history of NASCAR, and I'm kind of paralleling, you know, my career as a fan and as an artist working in the sport side by side with the evolution of graphic design in NASCAR. And one of the things is paint schemes sometimes reappear, but in another way. For example, Pearson's blue and gold paint scheme that he was running in the 60s with Holman and Moody, that blue and gold with white number 17s on it, later in the early 70s kind of reappeared a little bit on Donnie Allison's car.
Yeah.
Donnie Allison ran a car for Dyegard that was an 88, and it had white numbers on it and was a blue and gold paint scheme, and looked very similar to that paint scheme that was made famous by David Pearson.
David Pearson, yeah. But a lot of people, you know, if you're a big Pearson fan, of course you know it. But, you know, just the everyday fan doesn't realize that, oh, he raced before Purelator.
Right.
Is what I was getting at. But it's like you said, you know, Richard Petty, David Pearson, you know, all them cars are just so iconic. They're things that you remember because those paint schemes stuck out.
Stuck out. And you know, Richard Petty, I mean, gosh, like I said, I grew up a Bobby Allison fan, and ironically, when I joined the Bobby Allison fan club in 1973, the charter membership, I was charter number 43. They sent me a to join, and I almost sent it back. I'm like, what do you mean? You shouldn't even print a number 3 card if you're a Bobby Allison fan club. But it was so funny because, you know, years later, here I was designing for Richard Petty and doing all of his cars that you know, that Bobby Labonte drove and several other drivers competed in. And Richard Petty, I mean, I've always admired his autograph. I always aspired, whenever I started signing my artwork and everything, to do an autograph that people would enjoy seeing and could easily read and pick up, and that was all due to Richard Petty. But you know, the sport of NASCAR, the cars, I mean, that's what did it for me. For my very first race that I attended, I mean, I was so just mesmerized by the color and the speed and the vibrant paint jobs on the cars, and in my paintings and everything, I work in watercolor, which is usually a very you know, fluid and transparent type of a color, but I don't use a whole lot of water when I paint NASCAR race cars in watercolor. I mean, I make the colors as bold and exciting and eye-popping as possible.
Right.
And, you know, because to me, I want to capture every element just like it is on that race car.
Have you ever done, have you ever designed a car and you've gotten it all done, and either NASCAR has said it's too much, it's, you know, a lot of times they have to approve a paint job, correct?
Yeah, they have to approve all the paint jobs
right
now. And yeah, I've had my battles over the years with NASCAR, you know, trying something different and kind of stretching the boundaries and everything. I mean, I feel like that's my job, and so I'll run things up the flagpole with them sometimes, and they'll shoot it down because they feel like maybe it's, you know, getting a little bit outside the box as far as what they want to try or allow on the race cars, and you know, it's frustrating sometimes. But I mean, they have a job to do as well. They have to make considerations for the sponsors, you know, that pay a lot of money to be in the various places that they are. They have to police the sport, and so you don't think about it, but sometimes if say you paint a spoiler on a race car a certain color, that color visually can affect how the spoiler looks. I mean,
right.
And it makes it really hard for them to police it as far as measurements and all their scales and everything goes. So they have certain rules and regulations that as a follower of the sport for all these years, I mean, I have to appreciate and work within those boundaries. But again, I mean, I'm not going to do the same thing every time I do a paint scheme. I mean, that would get old and get redundant and cost me my job ultimately. So I'm always going to look for ways that I can do something that's a little bit different, a little bit outside the box. And I don't mind trying, new things as far as number styles and the way the car is broken up and the way the decals go on the car. And they've been good to me over the years. They've let me get away with a lot of things and try a lot of new things. And it's exciting. It's always fun. And that challenge is part of the excitement for me.
Yeah. One of our guys in our chat room, Doug Selly here, says he's honored that he has one of your prints called Flyover.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, from 2007 Lowe's.
Yeah,
Charlotte.
sure. That was a real challenge. That painting. It's got I can't remember exactly how many cars it's got on it, but it's got a ton of them on it. Counting the ones that are on the track that all the military cars are flying over. But I mean, the same way in my artwork that I do for the program covers or for my various paintings or whatever, I always try to do something unique and different. That's it for me. The composition is 90% of the battle. I want to come up with something that fans look at and maybe have to look at 2 or 3 times before they totally get what's going on. I mean, it's not every day you see a bunch of race cars flying over Charlotte Motor Speedway, and then that's part of the fun of it for me is to kind of think outside the box and create a composition that the fans have never seen before, but make it look so real that it almost looks like it happened.
The real thing that I like, and I still got to get to this guitar. We're going to get to that in a minute because I'm going to enjoy this one. But the thing I like about your artwork, and I am a big David Mann fan. I've always loved his artwork, and the reason being is there's always something behind it that you got to look for, and I see a lot of that in you too. There's stuff that's back there that people really don't pay attention to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of approach paintings on a lot of different levels. I mean, one, I want them to look at it straightforward and hopefully appreciate it for what it is, a piece of artwork. But two, the real thrill for me is when people will call me up, like 2 or 3 months later after buying a print or a poster from me or getting a program signed or something like that, and they'll go, that program cover you did for Charlotte was turned upside down on my coffee table, and I never noticed those 3 cars below the 3 that you had painted above it. Did you know they were there? And it's like, yeah, I did know they were there. I'm glad you noticed it now. But that to me is, that's so incredible when people can keep coming back to your artwork and maybe finding something different, And I love hiding things in the paintings and doing things with reflections and different things like that that always challenge the viewer to kind of find out all the things that are going on. It's always worked for me in my artwork, and I have a real good time with that.
Yeah.
Alan, I know you're still out there in the background. Did you have anything else you wanted to pop at Sam here?
No. I've just been enjoying listening.
I didn't know if you needed to go ahead and leave, or if you want to.
You want to hang around?
Yeah, actually, I have. I'm at a birthday party tonight, and I probably do need to split.
Well, go on. We're going to get you on here after Daytona too. I want to talk to you a little bit more.
No, I would love it. And real quick, I just want to remind the fans, NASCAR race day on Speed will come back the Saturday night of the Bud Shootout, and then obviously the big 3-hour show on the Sunday, the Daytona 500. Also, NASCAR Media Group has produced a docudrama about Wendell Scott that'll be airing on ESPN
Cool.
on Sunday night after the Daytona 500. And to fit one more plug in there, I get to do some race announcing for the Pass South Super Late Model Series. They kick their season off on March the 12th at the Anderson Motor Speedway in South Carolina. But, yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, and I'd love to be back on again sometime.
Man, we're going to get you on here, Alan, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, no problem. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Okay, Sam, sorry we had to get him in real quick.
No, it's fine. It was great talking to Alan, and I hope he'll eat a pizza birthday cake for me. That sounds good.
Okay, Doe, I got to ask about this guitar, and I can't remember if it was Memphis or Nashville.
Nashville,
and I know you know where I'm going with this.
Yes.
How did you feel when he smashed that?
All right. Well, you know, I will tell you one thing. I've never been a part of a media firestorm prior to that night in Nashville, and I don't know that I ever want to be a part of a media firestorm again. But, I was in Victory Lane, and I saw Kyle, of course, get out of the car and grab the guitar. And then 4.5 seconds later, he starts, coming down with the guitar towards the cement, and I swear I thought he was going to stop short. So I was just as surprised as anybody when I heard that loud pop that guitar made, and then he swung it down on the pavement like 3 more times. But the truth about it is that I was really shocked and surprised. No, I did not know he was going to do it. That's a big myth that's out there.
You're right.
And it really, it shocked and surprised me, and it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. But he did it. He didn't break the neck on the guitar. The guitar remained intact, which was an amazing testament to Gibson guitars, if I can get a plug in for them on that.
Yeah.
And later, he kind of walked over to the side of Victory Lane to do a couple interviews with the media over there, and I just kind of followed him over there, and I tapped him on the shoulder, and he turned around and looked at me, and I just kind of held my hands out like, hey, what was that all about? And he told me at that moment in Victory Lane, he said, look, I meant no disrespect to you. I meant no disrespect to Nashville Super Speedway or Gibson Guitars. And he said, I'm going to get, a couple more guitars to replace that one. He said, but I promised my guys that if I ever won that guitar, they'd all get a piece of it. And in the true spirit of rock and roll, and I'm a huge music buff, I could understand where he was coming from when he did it. I really, truthfully don't think, though, that he thought it all the way through.
Obviously.
About the fact it was a trophy.
Yeah.
That people, people don't historically get out of a car and tear up their trophy. He was thinking about it more from just the pure rock and roll guitar aspect. And I think if he'd have thought about what he was really doing, I really believe in all my heart that he would not have done it the way he did.
Now, these are real Gibson guitars, and you hand paint these, don't you?
Sir, yeah, those are real. Let me tell you, they're made in the Gibson Custom Shop, which is the finest custom shop guitar maker in the world. And these guitars, you've got to be one of 43 people to even get a shot at owning that guitar. It's not a guitar you can just go out and buy off the rack.
Right.
I put the paint job on it. The people at Gibson, put the clear coat on it. They install all the electronics, and they've got engraved pickup covers and all this stuff. This is a custom shop guitar that easily appraises at $25,000.
Yeah.
So it was quite shocking, to everybody in Victory Lane to see that happen. But you know what? In a roundabout way, and I love guitars, I love music, I love painting guitars. it turned out to be probably the biggest single piece of great publicity I ever got. You know, and that's the funny thing about it. I mean, here we are going into almost 2 years later, and
it's still out there.
And I still, every autograph session I do, every interview I do, whatever, people always ask me about that night. And Kyle is a tremendous race driver. I have all the respect in the world for him as far as being a racer, and true to what he said. I took him at his word that night that he was going to get a couple more guitars from me, and he ordered 3 more guitars, and I painted them up and finished them up during the course of that year for him, and he gave him, he cut up the one guitar, gave it to all his crew guys, and I think he gave one to his crew chief, one to his car owner, and then he kept one. So he was a man of his word, and I don't have any problems at all with Kyle Busch. As a matter of fact, let me tell you the second part to this story. Last year, I go to Nashville for the truck race, and it's the first time that Kyle Busch has been back at Nashville since he won the race and destroyed the guitar. Well, lo and behold, he wins the truck race. I go to Victory Lane with my guitar, and I'm standing there thinking, oh, my gosh, are we going to go through this again or what? And he gets out of his truck, and he takes the guitar from me, and he looks at me, and he goes, hey, if you want to beat the heck out of my truck with that guitar, I don't blame you. and so that was probably, his way of apologizing for the whole thing. But, I told him, I said, Kyle, with all due respect, I don't want to just destroy a good guitar again. So, so it was, it was fine, and life moves on. You got to work with these guys week in and week out, and you got to get along, and I don't have any problems with them. That's fine.
You still go to a lot of races too, don't you? I know you enjoy it, but you still go to a lot of them, don't you?
Yeah, I sure do. I'm getting ready to leave, like I said, Saturday for Daytona. I'll be down there for a couple weeks. I get to probably 18 to 22 races a year. I go to Nashville, all their events there. I love that racetrack, and they've kind of adopted me. That's like my second home. I go to Texas. I do a lot of work down there with Eddie Gossage and his group, and then all the races here at Charlotte. And then I'll try to take in new races every year that maybe I haven't been to before. But it ends up being like 18 to 22 events, and with all the painting and stuff I've got going on, that's plenty. It's hard to travel with some of these paintings as big as they are.
Yeah, and you're not only, and I was going to get to that, but you're not only doing car designs, you're actually doing your own artwork to sell, right?
Oh, yeah, and I mean, that's the funny part of it. I mean, I was doing the original paintings and drawings and posters, long before I started doing the car designs, and then I, kind of transitioned into that, and now I do about, 50-50 paintings and drawings and car designs during the years, but during the year's time. But the fans come here to my gallery. I've got an art gallery located right across the street from Charlotte Motor Speedway, and fans visit and come in. I've got probably 400 to 500 paintings and drawings on the wall that I've done over the years. I've got uniforms and helmets and sheet metal from the race cars I've designed, and they all hang around the gallery side by side, because I approach a painting and I approach a car design every bit the way I look at a painting. I mean, to me, a car is a 200-mile-an-hour painting, and I want them all to hang side by side and for people to appreciate the artistic value in all of it.
Hey, Sam, I'm going to apologize right now. As many times as I've been to Charlotte, I did not know your shop was across the street.
Well, and I didn't know that either, and we were just down there.
Yeah. You guys got to come by. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people drive right by it. They don't know that they can come in, and we've got a 3,500 square foot gallery with 16 feet high walls that is just filled from the bottom of the floor to the top of the ceiling with artwork. I mean, and the people that come in, that stop in, I mean, they really, really seem to enjoy it, and they go back and they tell their family and friends about it, and it's really, for me, growing up as a kid, and just this has been my only dream in my life. I mean, I'm just overwhelmed that people stop in and come in and enjoy the artwork. I mean, it's really, really a cool, special feeling, and I have a real good time with it. And we have NASCAR Hall of Fame. They bring some tours by here, and I walk the people kind of behind the scenes and show them my my studio and to show them our shipping warehouse and everything that I've got kind of set up like a Hard Rock Cafe, and they go through the halls and they see all the guitars and stuff I've collected over the years, and they had a really good time. So I'd invite any of the fans that come to Charlotte to definitely make it to put it on your to-do list and come by and see me. I think you'll have a really good time.
Well, now a friend of ours down at the NASCAR Sports Grill here in Hampton, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
He's telling me he's trying to get you to be out there at his place at one of the Richmond races.
Yeah. We were going to try to do something, as a matter of fact, this weekend, and unfortunately, I had a schedule conflict with the obligation I made down in Daytona. But yeah, we're going to try to do that prior to the first Richmond race, and I've heard that place is really, really cool, and I'm going to take him a bunch of artwork so he can hang a lot more of my stuff up on the walls down there.
Well, we take and do a show from there about once a month with them.
Oh, cool. Well, that sounds great. Well, maybe we can time it so that you guys will be there, and I'd love to be a guest on your show. I think that'd be awesome.
I got one. I need some verification on this, and
Okay.
I'm back to a Dale Earnhardt kick. Okay. I'm sorry. You were good friends with him too, by the way, right?
Oh, I sure was. I worked with Dale. From about 1984 until unfortunately when we lost
his
him
passing,
in 2001, and never had a contract won with him. I always knew where I stood with him. He always asked me to do things, and I always did my best for him. I designed everything for him, from his jet airplanes to his motor coaches to several of his paint schemes on his cars to his transporters for Richard Childress, and I love the man to death. I thought he was just a great human being, and I'll spend the rest of my life in debt to him, because he did so much for my career, helping me, giving me so many opportunities to paint the various things and accomplishments he did on the racetrack. And actually, the land that this gallery is built on here in Charlotte, or Concord, he sold me the property, and he allowed me to get the corner lot, which is right across the street from the Speedway, which is very, very special. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah. He had a car designed one time, and I don't think you did it. And you're going to have to, and I know once I say it, you're going to know what I'm talking about, but you designed almost every single one of his All-Star cars.
Mm-hmm. Except the Peter Max car.
That's it. That's the one. Did you ever talk to him about that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's the only time Dale ever called me to really apologize about anything. Because GM had a deal that they did with Peter Max, and he sold them a bunch of artwork and different things like that. And one of their VPs up there at General Motors commissioned Peter Max to design Dale's paint scheme for the All-Star race, and Dale knew that there wasn't no hiding that it would show up at the racetrack, and he called me personally and said, "Hey man, I just want to apologize. GM put this deal together. I didn't really have anything to do with it." He said it's a lot of money involved in it and everything, and he said it wasn't something that that Richard Childress or I could turn away. He said, but we didn't do it out of any disrespect to you at all, and he goes, you're my guy, and I thought it was really cool. I'm a big fan of Peter Max. Now, that car was not a Dale Earnhardt car by any stretch of the imagination, and there's a famous story about Dale driving around Charlotte Motor Speedway telling Richard Childress if he ever brought that car back to the Speedway for him to drive it, he would not do it.
Yeah.
And it went against all the things that Dale Earnhardt stood for as far as paint scheme designs. I mean, it was bright, loud colors, which was not really his style at all. It was very asymmetrical as far as the paint scheme, and it really was very, very loud, and that was everything that Dale Earnhardt did not really like on a race car. But it's one of the most memorable ones that he ever drove, and I'll tell you what, I like the car a lot. I mean, as an artist, I thought the car was cool as all. I mean, the various blends, the colorations of it, the way it stood out, what Peter Max did with the numbers and all that stuff on the car. I thought it was very, very cool, and I did a painting of the car, and it's one of the most difficult paintings I have ever done,
Really?
because there was no faking the paint scheme on the car. You had to have it exact, and had to have all the blends right, and all the brakes on the car, where they fell into place and stuff. And I really enjoyed the car. I enjoyed the whole promotion, but
It wasn't Dale Earnhardt, though, was it?
no, it was not Dale Earnhardt at all, at all. And believe you me, I mean, I had many conversations with Dale Earnhardt about his theories on paint schemes and everything else. One famous story that I always tell is I was in Dale's office one time. I was designing the cars for Kerry, Kelly, and Dale Jr. They were going to run on the local bull rings and short tracks across the country. And I had slanted the numbers backwards instead of forwards, like the traditional way that Dale ran them on his car.
Right.
And he looked at me and kind of pulled his sunglasses down below his eyes and kind of stared at me. He said, "What's up with these numbers?" And I said, "Well, Dale, there's it's like the cars are moving so fast that they're blowing the numbers back. The wind is blowing the numbers back." And he stood up and he said, "Let me ask you something." And he kind of leaned back and kind of, was doing his arms like he's running. And he said, "When you run, do you run like this, leaning back? Or do you run," and he leaned over forward and moved his arms like he was running, "or do you run like this?" And I said, "Well, you run like that." And he said, "Point proven." And I said, "Yeah, okay." And he made his point. I mean, it was a very, very good point. That you run leaning forward, and that's why he wanted his numbers leaning forward like that. So I never made that mistake with him again.
Well, if you want to know the truth, I run my numbers forward just like that, just because he did it.
Yeah, exactly. But I will tell you, I mean, in all respect to Dale, I still to this day design some of my cars with the numbers leaning backwards or whatever, because it is an optical illusion that actually sometimes makes the car look faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, hey, once Dale Earnhardt told you something once, you never forgot it.
You never forgot it.
I never went back out there again with numbers slanted backwards.
Oh, gosh.
I hope you don't mind, and we're running way over, but it's been enjoyable. So, can you still stick around for a couple minutes?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm having a good time talking to you guys.
Do you take a paint job? Do you take the driver in mind when you go to do a paint job? Does that driver and his personality kind of flow into the paint job?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the one thing you never want to have, and I've been blessed with this, is you never want to have a driver, talk about his paint job in a negative way. You want that driver to be totally thrilled and proud of what he's out there competing in. And I mean, the driver's personality needs to be reflected in the paint scheme. And it's very important to the whole branding identity of the race car with the drivers. I mean, I tell people all the time. I mean, I loved the Wrangler cars that Dale Earnhardt drove back in the mid to late '80s. But he'd have never been known as the man in black if he'd have never driven that Goodwrench car.
Right.
He got in that black race car, man. He was Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And it totally changed. It didn't change his personality, but it fit his personality. That Wrangler car was a beautiful, beautiful car, but no car fit his personality as being that sinister, evil race driver out there on the track like that black Goodwrench car did. And when the Goodwrench quarter-inch car, if you remember, first came out, it was all black and silver with a red pinstripe around the numbers, but the numbers themselves were silver as well.
Yep.
So there was a lot of concern about the black race car showing up on the racetrack, but the truth of the matter is that any race car will show up if it's out front leading.
Oh, yes.
And Dale Earnhardt very quickly put that car up at the front of the field, and people identified with it. And then the next year they changed to the white numbers, which everybody identifies with him, the 3 in the white with the red trim. But, that fit in perfectly. Whenever I was designing for Jeff Gordon and did the original Rainbow Warrior car, Jeff was a brand new rookie coming on the scene, but had a lot of buzz about him. And DuPont was a sponsor that had been in the Grand National ranks, but it was a dream come true for an artist, because there was not a color I could come up with that they couldn't make in their paint. So I thought, okay, well, here's somebody that's going to be, a hot shot on the circuit. He's going to get a lot of attention. His car should be a hot shot and should get a lot of attention. And I simply took the arc of the DuPont logo on the hood, and I thought, well, DuPont makes a rainbow of colors, so let's put a rainbow across the hood and on the sides of the car and everything else. And Jeff has told me himself several times that he thinks the reason that his fan base grew as fast as it did was in part due to that cool looking car that everybody in the audience could identify with and could pick out. And even the kids, when Jeff came on the circuit, the kids just gravitated to his car, and he said that the bright colors and everything attracted their attention and made beautiful collectibles. And so the paint scheme is just incredibly important. Somebody like Tony Stewart, I did a paint scheme for him his last year with Home Depot, and I made it dark and sinister with some really cool lines on it and everything else. And Tony, told me, he said, "Man, I love that paint scheme. It looks really evil." So it's fun.
Have you done any of his newer smoke type of stuff he has out now?
Yeah. Well, I did some die-cast stuff for him a couple of years ago, and we've talked quite a bit recently about me doing some paint schemes for him over the next couple of years. So I'm really excited about that. I love Tony Stewart. I think he's just a tremendous racer, and he's a great personality and really, really good for the sport. But I'd welcome the opportunity to do anything for him, for sure.
Is there anything, and you've had your career's still going, but it's been so illustrious up to this point. Is there anything you really want to go do is there a car you want to go do that you haven't done yet? Do you want to go do an Indy car or a sprint car? Is there something that Sam Bass wants to do that he hasn't done yet?
Well, I tell you what, I've done a lot of program covers over the years, and I've been thrilled. I've done every program cover in a row consecutively for Charlotte Motor Speedway since May of 1985. I'm getting ready to do my 66th consecutive cover.
Wow.
For Charlotte, and I'm really proud of that. But, I would one day like to get a chance to design a Daytona 500 cover. That would be, that's on my bucket list for sure.
Right.
I would love to do a Brickyard cover for Indy, and I'd love one day to maybe get the chance to do an Indianapolis 500 cover. I think that would be really cool and special. As far as paint schemes and stuff go, you never know who that next upcoming driver that you work with is going to be the paint scheme that takes them to fame or something like that. So I just love doing paint schemes in general, and working with all the different drivers. That's a lot of fun. I've been able to work with Jeff Gordon on all his stuff, over the past 18 years, and that's really, really a good time. And so I hope he'll let me finish out his career with him on that, whenever that day may be. I've had a chance to do it all. Do a lot of really cool things. I did 2 paint schemes one year for the starting lineup at Indy. they were the only 2 cars I had in the field, and they tied for best appearing car at Indianapolis. So that was pretty special, and you know, I just, you know, the great thing about what I do is I've got something to show for every day I work. I mean, you know, I've always got something that when I'm done with working on something for a couple weeks, I've got something to show for it. I hang it up on the wall and then let everybody else enjoy it. That's a true blessing, and then, you know, the other great thing about my career is that there really is no career span on an artist. I mean, some of my favorite, you know, artists ever, Leonardo da Vinci, Pablo Picasso, I mean, they painted well into their, you know, 80s and 90s, you know, Salvador Dali, you know, was painting well into late stages, and I hope, as long as I'm able to do it, man, I hope I'm able to keep working in this sport and keep painting and drawing and being relevant in the sport, and I have a good time with it. I mean, I'm a fan first who happens to be an artist, and I always love working in this sport. It's a privilege.
And you started doing a lot of you do. I was looking through the press kit, but you also do a fundraiser for a lot of charities too, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I grew up, I didn't have a lot of money growing up, and this sport has been really, really good to me over the years. And, you know, at the end of the day, what I do, what I print, I mean, it's on pieces of paper, and you know, I've always, because I didn't have a lot whenever I was growing up, I always try to give back to people that, you know, that are struggling and are hurting and everything. And you know, if I can donate a signed poster or a signed limited edition print to a charity or whatever, you know, I always try to do that. And we're, you know, we're very blessed. We have people from all over the world that write us and everything else. And when we can do it, we do it. And you know, it's an amazing thing to, you know, to donate a piece of paper with your signature and your artwork on it, and then get a letter about, you know, how something you donated raised $1,500 for a fundraiser or something, and or has helped a family, you know, build, you know, a Make-A-Wish, or do something for a Make-A-Wish kid, or build a home, you know, for a family or something like that. Start them, you know, or disaster relief efforts or something like that. I mean, it's an amazing thing to be a part of that. I've been on the board of directors for Speedway Children's Charities. I created the logo for the Speedway Children's Charities since about 1996, and you know, I do a lot of different things for the drivers. Charitable fundraisers. I donate artwork. I do die-cast card designs for them, and so forth. And that's a way to give back. And I feel like anybody that's in a, you know, that has been blessed to enjoy a good career and to be comfortable in their life, I mean, that's the least they can do, is try to reach back and help somebody else that hasn't had the, you know, the great times, or is in a bad situation or something like that. So it's the least you can do.
I got 2 comments off the chat room, and I didn't mean to interrupt Doc that last time. I'm sorry, but Doug, this guy Doug wants to know: have you done anything for Jeff Gordon's wine business?
No, other than consume the product every once in a while. But you know, that's something that Jeff and his father-in-law, I mean his stepdad John Bigford have talked about, is doing some limited edition labels down the road, and maybe over the next year or two we'll be able to do something like that.
And I've got another guy here, Jim, that he says your artwork is so very distinctive. And it's just like Norman Rockwell. When you see a Rockwell or you see a Sam Bass. Wow,
man! That, you know, that Norman Rockwell. That's another guy that painted well into the prime of his life, and that is a tremendous compliment, Jim, to compare my work to Norman Rockwell, because I'm a tremendous admirer of his work and talent, and you know, he's been a major influence on my career and the way I go about doing my painting. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing what you do. This has just been an honor that you're here. I've enjoyed this.
I wanted to put in there that, you know, he's talking about these guys living to be a ripe old age. I want him to hit 150 and still be cranking away at this.
Yeah.
From your mouth to God's ear, man. Let me tell you, I hope I can do it when I'm 150 years old. That'd be pretty cool. And you know, I still enjoy doing this every bit as much as I ever have. I mean, you know, I'm one of the very fortunate people that has dreamed of having a career and has been able to have exactly that career I've always dreamed of. And you know, I hope it continues for a long time. I hope I keep getting opportunities to work with these guys and design and paint for them, and the sponsors. And NASCAR has been just unbelievable to me. They've always supported me. They've always helped me and supported my career. And I couldn't say enough good things about the folks at NASCAR. That title that they gave me, the first officially licensed artist of NASCAR, is something I'm incredibly proud of, and always want to represent it to the best of my ability. So you know, I've had a great time on your guys' show tonight, and I look forward to hopefully having an opportunity to join you again. And when you're in Charlotte, by all means, you guys have got to come by for the personal tour of my gallery.
There you go.
We will definitely do that. And I know you got a book out. Let's push that book, and then we're going to let you go.
Yeah, it's the art of the NASCAR art of Sam Bass, and it's available through the gallery here. It's in some of the bookstores out there. Some copies are left of it, but we've got some of them in the gallery, and people really enjoy it. It's got about 90 illustrations and the stories behind it, and I'm working on a second book this year that I hope to maybe have out by the end of the year. You know, things are great. And if you don't mind, a shameless plug, if people want to visit sambass.com, that's my website, and I'm on Twitter at sambassartist, and also on Facebook. So we're trying to embrace all the forms of social media and keep up with it. It's a tough job, but I'm trying my best. So you know, just I love the fans. I mean, they're the reason I'm able to enjoy this career, and I want to say a special thank you to them that are listening to your show and watching. I couldn't do what I do without them. The sport can be as great as it is without them, and they're you know, really, really special in my heart.
Well, you're special to in their hearts too. I mean,
Definitely.
you know.
But one thing we will do, Sam, I'm pretty sure you're going to wind up being up here at the Sports Grill. And either there or somewhere at one of the races, I'm sure we'll take and meet up with you and get to shake your hand.
No, that's cool.
Also, the young man that was talking about the poster, just to let you know, when you go on Facebook, I posted his picture on your page so that you can pull that up.
All right, great.
And let's let you get out of here because you've been with us for quite a while.
For an hour.
Wow. Well, hey, I mean, that's great, guys. I appreciate you talking to me and everything, and it's great what you're doing with your show, and you know, just anything that reaches out to the fans and gives them the, you know, more information and grows their love for the sport. That's a good thing for all of us. So keep up what you're doing, and if I can ever help you in any way, I'd be more than happy to send you some posters and stuff to give away, contests and different things like that. So
we'll get with you on that. We do a few charitable things too. So
okay, well, that sounds great, man. Well, thanks for having me on, and I look forward to talking to you again. Y'all,
all right, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Good night, guys.
Bye bye.
Night. Okay, now I got to go to that.
Oh.
You usually do. What's the show?
Well, that's what you get for drinking all that Mountain Dew. Good golly. Sorry, I'm not supposed to plug Mountain Dew, but anywho, but I like it. Whatever. We'd like to let y'all know a couple of things going on at the NASCAR Sports Grill before I forget it. They are going to be having, I believe, this weekend, a silent auction with the different NASCAR and NFL items that they're going to be having that have been supplied through different people. So come on out, check out the stuff. They're going to have it Saturday and Sunday. They're also going to be doing some stuff for the Daytona 500. We're going to be out there the Wednesday before, and the day of the Daytona is going to have some of the race cars from the local drivers in the area out there as well. You going to have your car ready to come out there on Daytona 500 weekend? Be out to the Sports Grill?
Who?
You?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
Anyway.
So, and that's next weekend, right?
Yeah.
Um.
One of our other sponsors, PCDocs.us. Go on the internet, looking for doing computer upgrades. Good pricing.
I gotta throw, as everybody's been saying it, shameless plugs.
I get away with this, Mike.
Sticker Shock Graphics in Richmond, opening up here soon. Check them out. I believe they're on Facebook now too. Smokes Pit Crew, which is on Facebook. He says I need to plug it. I'm going to plug it. I don't know what it's about. I haven't been there yet, but I'm going to go.
Tony
so
Smokey's
yep.
Smoke Signals is the other one.
Smoke Signals,
Yeah.
but I think it's Tony Smokes Pit Crew.
They've got so many of those out there. Let me tell you.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
So, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Next weekend, weekend after.
What? Where?
NASCAR Grill.
NASCAR Grill is the
Weekend after.
Weekend before the Daytona.
The 16th.
The 16th.
So it's the weekend after. Next weekend we're here.
Yeah.
The weekend
I
after,
better check that.
or the Wednesday after that.
I better check that. Maybe
Yeah, I
we
need
got
to
our stuff scheduled screwed up. Uh-oh.
And thank you, Sam Bass. That was awesome.
Yeah.
He's.
Excellent.
I could have spent another hour talking to him.
We'll have to tell him he was almost as bad as Kyle Petty.
Almost as bad as Kyle Petty said.
Nobody's going to match Carl Long, that's for sure.
Let's get out of here.
All right.
See you next week.
See you next week. See ya. I gotta go around the other side and turn it off. Well, you could have gone and clicked stop.
It didn't have a steering wheel on it.
Oh, jeez.